radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. All right. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. 246 days into the new year, only 120 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Tonight's very special guest. This is Egypt Week on Fade to Black, and this is night number 3. That's right. Tonight, Yousef Awyan, live from Cairo, Egypt. Tomorrow night, Laird Scranton. That's right. No Fader night tomorrow night. Laird Scranton is going to be back. Had to reschedule him after our equipment snafu. Went down Monday night. Laird will be with us tomorrow night. All righty. Lots to do this evening. Okay. I saw this post today from Carolyn Ford, and Carolyn is doing a little meditation tonight in the lair of Einstein, the crystal skull, the ancient crystal skull of wisdom. And I just got off the phone with her. So she's now down starting the meditation. And there you go. And I wanted to, and we're going to have to do this in the future. I want to do one of these for us with the Fader knots. And I'll bring in all of my crystal skulls and bring them in here, and all of the Fader knots can take out their crystal skulls, and we can do a meditation together with all of us, with Einstein at the same time, the interconnected interweb, right? Oh man, I think we should do it. And you need to get your crystal skull so you have one when you're ready, right? You got to do it. Just go to Carolyn's website, EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com, and click on the banner, head straight over there, and use the promo code Jimmy, Jimmy, 10% off of your Crystal Skull order today. Last night, I was listening to a physicist, his audiobook actually, Russian, and there were a couple of really dramatic points there, but one of the things that he was saying is that so many people today around the world talk about everything being connected and consciousness being connected and everything being connected all the way throughout the universe. And he went on to make this point that with entanglement, that everything is connected everything is connected. There is no question about it. Everything is connected from here, from your brain, all the way throughout the universe. Everything is connected. And it just stopped me right there. And I was like, man, I want to use that line. And the way that he states it, it is so elegant. And I might actually transcribe it and read it on the air. It was tremendous, moved me, and like right now, moved me. And speaking with Caroline today, Caroline Ford, it's Caroline. It's meditation is special, right? It's weird how it works. And speaking of that, there is Disclosure Fest, Mass Meditation Initiative, that's going down October 10th and 11th right here in Los Angeles. And I have been hosting this event since the beginning, back in 2017. And when you do that, when you have so many people focused at the same time and meditating at the same time, you affect change. And this year, Disclosure Fest is going to go virtual. So the event is still going on at the Los Angeles Historic Park in downtown LA, which is right next to Chinatown. But it's going to be a live streaming event. The same giant stages, there'll be 5 of those, with music and yoga and speakers and all of those things. And I'll be hosting from those stages. But it's the power of meditation and what Disclosure Fest has grown into, being able to do this, where you can participate with all of that live virtually. If you are in Los Angeles and you want to come down and be part of the live stream, you can do that. You can do that. We're going to take all of the precautions that are needed and required by the city and the state. We understand that. But if you want to come down, and you're in Los Angeles, come down and participate and hang out with us. It's my birthday, October 10th, so we'll be celebrating somewhat the best that we can at an event like Disclosure Fest. But we're going to be doing that. So come down and hang out with us, or you can do it virtually online and go to disclosurefest.org for all of the details. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow me right there on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Oh, look at that. Chuck Elliott just checked in. How's Kara doing, Chuck? A little shout out to Kara. Unbelievable heart transplant during the broadcast. That was a special night. That was a history-making show. Man, that was so moving. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. The Sandbox, where everybody hangs out. Well, not everybody, but a lot of you. Hashtag F2B on Twitter. And any questions or comments during the show is hashtag F2BQ. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. We've got 2 chat rooms, one over at Spreaker. Hello to everybody on Spreaker. There's Gene Viteau. Everybody, Gene Viteau is in the chat room right now. So is Corolla. Look at that. All right, you can go over to the chat rooms. We have one over at KGRA The Planet. Hello to everybody on YouTube. Troublemakers, you guys are the best. We've got to do a YouTube AMA. I'm telling you. Maybe we'll do that next week. All right. Hello to everybody on Facebook and all around the world. Let's get to the breaking news. Check this out. Check this out. The audio is breaking up on the website. No, it's not. Oh, man, no, it's not. Stop with that. Breaking news. The city of Hoboken. Do you remember when I used to go, breaking news? All of the news that you need to know, but you didn't know anything about? Well, this is one of those nights. The city of Hoboken in New Jersey sued 5 major oil companies and the oil and gas industry's main trade association on Wednesday over allegations of knowingly contributing to the damaging effects of climate change, including rising seas, by deceiving the public about the threat. The lawsuit filed in State Superior Court for Hudson County claims that ExxonMobil Corp., Royal Dutch Shell, 3 more major oil companies, and the American Petroleum Institute have tried to deceive the public for decades by producing, marketing, or selling their fossil fuel products while knowing that it's used to exacerbate climate change. Holy crap, right? Oh, man. Taking on big oil. New Jersey. All right. Well, I should say, you just knew that UFOs and coronavirus were going to collide at one point. And then we have this today. Widespread quarantine has more people than ever believing that we may not be alone in the universe. That's right. Data from the nonprofit National UFO Reporting Center, which records UFO-related events, Peter Davenport, we've had Peter on the show, he's great, shows that sightings are up 51% so far this year compared to the same period in 2019. All of this in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Among the 5,000 sightings recorded this year, 20% of them occurred in April, the height of the COVID-19 crisis and lockdown. And that's the words of the Wall Street Journal. I'm thinking that we are still in the middle of the height of coronavirus. Ain't relaxing around here in Los Angeles. All right. Astronomers may have detected the most massive collision of two black holes ever discovered, a merger that occurred some 7 billion years ago, the signs of which have only just reached us. The distance show, including two major players, one black hole roughly 66 times the mass of our sun, and another black hole roughly 85 times the mass of our sun. The two came close together, rapidly spinning around each other several times per second. That's insane. Before eventually crashing together in a violent burst of energy that sent shockwaves throughout the universe. The result of their merger, one single black hole roughly 142 times the mass of our sun. At 5.3 billion parsecs away, the detection announced today is also the farthest merger that LIGO and Virgo have ever found, with the waves taking 7 billion years to reach us. This event, called GW190521, was detected on May 21st back in 2019. All right. There is unequivocal proof that Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny was poisoned with Novichok, the nerve agent, and this is according to Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel. She said all of this earlier today. Merkel said he was a victim of attempted murder and the world would look to Russia for answers. Navalny was flown to Berlin after falling ill on a flight in Siberia last month and remains in a coma. His team says he was poisoned on President Vladimir Putin's orders. The Kremlin has dismissed the allegation. The Kremlin called on Germany for a full exchange of information and said that the Novichok allegations were not backed up by evidence. We all know that Navalny fell ill on a flight from Tomsk to Moscow. The suspected poison was placed in a cup of tea at Tomsk airport. The flight of the Putin critic was diverted to Omsk, where doctors treated him for 3 days before he was transferred to a hospital in Berlin. Well, I'm going to leave you with this tonight. Tech giant Apple now has a greater market cap value than all of the companies in Britain's FTSE 100 index combined. With a market cap of about $2.25 trillion as of this morning, Apple's valuation now exceeds the approximate $2 trillion value of all components in the FTSE 100, which is comprised of the United Kingdom's biggest publicly listed companies. Since the March 23rd lows, Apple shares have surged 135%. Over that same span, the FTSE 100 has risen just 17.4%. From its January highs, the FTSE 100 has actually dropped 22%. That's insane. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Neo Keanu Reeves is 56 years old. There is a video. Ruben Langdon. If you go to Ruben Langdon's YouTube channel, you know Ruben, he's great. And he's a stuntman. There is a video on there on his channel called Keanu Reeves Stops a Robbery. I think that's what it's called. Go watch it. It's incredible. Salma Hayek today is 54. Toto's Steve Porcaro today is 63. And OG Fade or Not, Deb from Sacramento today is 29 years old. All right. Say combined again. I'm not sure what that means. Combined. I'm not sure what that means. I'm going to combine that with this. On this day in history, OTD 31 BC, it is at the Battle of Actium off the western coast of Greece. Roman leader Octavian wins a decisive victory against the forces of Roman Mark Antony and Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, on this day in 31 BC. A year later, they would both be dead, like Momo. Fader fact. The world's... Okay, now, write this down. You need to absorb this, and there are people out there that actually do this, follow this, and it is very important to them. So I am going to share it with you because this is something that you don't know, but you need to know. Okay? Fader fact. The world's largest island in a lake, on an island, in a lake, on an island, is in Canada. Let me say it again. The world's largest island in a lake, on an island, in a lake, on an island, is in Canada. It doesn't have a name. It's about 4 acres big. It's located exactly at 69.793 degrees north, 108.241 degrees west, and it's 75 miles inland from the southern coast of Victoria Island in northern Canada. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, very special guest live from Cairo, Egypt, the Giza Plateau. It is Yousef Awyan. Tomorrow night, Laird Scranton. There you go. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to hit this River Moon coffee. Happy birthday, Deb. All right. Let me get comfortable. One of the things that is rarely talked about among the Egyptologists, and this is Egypt Week, night 3 here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night is night 4, but right now it's night 3, and we're talking about Egypt. And one of the things that is rarely talked about, if ever, among Egyptologists is the population numbers of ancient Egypt. Now, stop right there. We're going to take a few pauses during this rant, this rambling rant, because I bring this up because during my research on the subject over the years, I've listened to the many theories about how many sites and temples were built and by whom. One early conclusion was that Egypt used slaves for the construction projects. And lately, over the last 10 years or so, Egyptologist and Zahi Hawass has tried to change this view. The new view, one that says that the workers were volunteers, man. They were volunteers. They weren't slaves. Or they were paid professionals, man. They wanted to be there. They weren't slaves. No, man, not slaves, no. And so I decided to do what any honest, hardworking researcher would do. Take a look at the numbers. The population numbers. The period between 3000 and 2500 BC was a crucial one. A critical one. Hundreds of temples and pyramids were built. That's right. Right? Covering a 500-year period, including the pyramid complex at Giza. Now, estimates vary, but the general accepted number is that about 500,000 to 1 million people lived in Egypt at that time. In the entire country. At 3000 BC, 500,000. And some estimates even lower. And then 500 years later, it rose. It rose to 1 million people. Doubled. Okay? All right. Now, let's try and break this down in a very quick and simple way. 500,000 people. Let's take a look at that. Out of the gate, half are women. Okay, so you can do that. So that leaves 250,000. Half of that are children. And I'm going conservative, saying 1 child per adult. Right? Some families might have had 5, 10 kids. But let's just go with 1 child per adult. That leaves about 125,000 adult males. Out of that 125,000, who was too old or too sick to work? Right? Think about that. How many? I don't know. Half? I don't know. I don't. So let's go a third. A third that were too old or too sick to work. So let's go a third. I just want to be safe here, which kind of leaves us with a nice round number of 100,000 prime and fit adult men. Now, let's stop right there for a second time. Hold that number. 100,000 fit adult men. 2 pyramids were built in Giza at the same time. Khufu and Khafre. And Egyptologists will say that it took about 20,000 builders to construct each pyramid. That's 40,000 right there. So that means that 1 out of 2 adult males in the entire country of Egypt, were building Khufu and Khafre. These are their numbers, not mine. Take it one step further. It says to me that every fit adult male for hundreds of miles, every single one, everyone was committed to the project. There were no men left. And this is only one project. There were hundreds of them that were being built at the same time over that 200-year period. The further you go back in time, the smaller the population. But the construction was equally huge. You can't forget, over that 200-year period, hundreds of temples and sites and pyramids. But some of the biggest, like the Step Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid, the Red Pyramid. And the closer you look at the data, the more it just doesn't make any sense. And then there's the money and the resources. With a population that small, every single penny in the bank was used up for temple construction. Everything. All of it. Cash, treasure, gold, men. All used up. I just look at the data. Now, I'm just asking questions. I don't have the answers. We know that everything got built. We can see it. And there is so much more that we don't know that hasn't even been discovered yet. We are finding more exciting things out there in the desert every single day. But the explanation from Egyptologists like, well, the Egyptians were just happy to see it. They were happy to be there. They were happy to do it. So they did it. There's nothing to discuss. By the way, have you seen the Cairo Grand Museum? It's right over here. It's amazing. Diversions. The numbers, all of them, just don't add up. Aswan, the main quarry for the granite used, was 500 miles south of Cairo. 1 million tons of granite carved and transported in a 250-year period. That right there sounds like an additional 50,000 men to me, but who am I to ask, right? That 50,000 is the other half of the men that weren't up at Giza, in Abydos or Saqqara. Who was building all of those boats and the barges? Who was farming the land? Who was left to feed the families? Who built homes? Who took care of the towns and the villages all along the Nile? Who did that? Who was left for an army? Was it the women and children? Possibly, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, it's the numbers, the real numbers. This is the subject that Egyptologists will never talk about because they can't. But that's not what's important. What is important is, have you seen that new Cairo Grand Museum? It's amazing. Seriously. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is night 3 of our Egypt week here on Fade to Black. We have tonight with us live from Cairo, Egypt, Yousef Awyan. Tomorrow night, Laird Scranton. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, it's live from Cairo. Cannot wait for this. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great week. I love talking about Egypt. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Start right there. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, night 3 of Egypt Week. Night 3. And right now, live from Cairo in the Giza Complex, our guest is Yousef Awyan. Yousef was born, raised, and still resides at his family's home right there, which is just a few meters from the Sphinx Entrance to the Giza Plateau. Yousef grew up listening avidly to his father, Hakim Awyan, talk about the secrets and mysteries of ancient Egypt, Khemit, sharing his passion, his honors, and his family's and father's memories by continuing to share his wealth of knowledge and wisdom. He is devoted to revealing and researching and teaching the amazing truths of Egypt's and our collective heritage. Yousef met and married his wife, Patricia, in 2008, and together they created the Khemit School of Ancient Mysticism as an open forum to share the teachings of Hakim and to continue with the exploration and research of the ancient mysteries both on and off of the sites. Yousef reads and interprets the hieroglyphs, symbols, and images found in Egypt from a unique perspective as taught to him by his father, as well as through his own research and continued study. Now, his website is right there at jimmychurchradio.com on our website, chematology.com, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, live from Cairo, Yousef Awyan. Yousef, good evening from here. Good morning to you.
Good morning from here. Good evening to you.
It's so good to hear your voice again, man.
Same here. Nice to hear your voice, Jimmy.
Now, Yousef, so much is going on right now over in Cairo and Giza. You guys got a lot of things going on. But I want to say this. I've been watching your live streams, right? The morning, right? The sun is rising and those dramatic views of the plateau. You're actually that close, aren't you?
Yeah, I take these live videos from my balcony.
I'm so jealous. You know what I see from my backyard?
No.
A train. Right?
It's not a bad view.
It's not a bad. It's Los Angeles, man. What are you going to do? But one of the things I want to back up. We're going to talk about so many different things tonight. But and again, thank you. I realize it's so early in the morning. And doing a live show like this is so important to our audience, and they all are very appreciative for you taking the time this morning. So with that being said, I want to go back specifically to one of the videos, one of the live streams that you had posted. This was a few months ago. I'm sure you'll remember it. But you were showing some convoys of some vehicles that were coming in. And you were describing maybe a new entrance or something that was being built there. What was going on in that video?
Yeah, there is lots and lots of work is being created now at the Giza Plateau to improve the service for tourism, and also they are creating special buildings for visitors that will give many services in the near future.
And is it close to being completed?
Yeah, I would say. I was at the plateau a few days ago, and I saw that the work is going really professional and fast, and looks also like they're not holding any money doing it.
Right. And I read a press release last week that went out. They didn't have a name for it, but apparently you guys have a new restaurant and cafe that is actually at Giza now and not separate. And this is the first time that this has ever happened.
There was one in the valley, in the famous building of the Sound and Light Show. There was this cafeteria, they call it. But this was a new one. It has an Arabian traditional seat, plus another shady place and another place, all isolated with glass, probably going to be air conditioned. So yeah, but it's in a higher location, and it's more to the south, so you can see all the three pyramids from that view.
Now, what is going on with the Grand Museum?
Also, the Grand Museum, they received many of the pieces, and I believe BBC was created already some documentaries about how it's going to look like, and especially the labs that renovates the artifacts, and hundreds, if not thousands, of new pieces is going to be displayed in the Grand Museum, which is, of course, for all the people who love and have passion about the ancient Egyptian civilization, will be like a child in a candy store. You know what I mean?
And so, when do you think it's finally going to be completed? Do you have any idea?
I believe there will be an opening for a part of it in the near future, probably next year. And the full opening will take time, but this is how this thing, it's a very huge project. It's supposed to be the largest museum in the world. And I believe Egypt, should have the largest museum, because we have tens and tens of thousands of artifacts. Some of them is one artifact can be as big as a building, you know, some of the colossal statues and things like that.
Well, yeah, and we've been waiting. I thought that, the world thought that the museum was going to be completed last year. And here we are, at the end of 2020, going into 2021. There's no question about it. It is beautiful. It is ginormous. It's huge. It's a lot huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
But we can't wait for this thing to get open.
Me too. And I'm sure they want it to be open as we do. But, sometimes we have these struggles, especially with what's going on in the world. And,
and speaking about that, all tourism around the world has taken a huge hit. There's no question about it. And everything, not everything, but just about everything in Cairo is centered around tourism, and the economy is based on that. How bad is it for you guys with tourism right now in Cairo?
Well, of course, there are no trouble. They just recently, on the 1st of September, reopened all the sites again and all the airports. So from last March until the beginning of September, we had no tourism at all.
Wow.
So you can imagine for all the tour companies and the restaurants and the shops and hotels and it's of course, it's a disaster.
Well, and for you personally and your family, you're one of the leading tour guides in the entire country. And for you to have been shut down, along with the sites too as well, are you able to at least go and visit the sites if you wanted to, or are they just have they been completely blocked off?
No, the Giza Plateau was open.
Okay.
The rest of the sites were reopened just a couple of days ago.
So that means like Edfu, Luxor, Karnak, all of that closed.
It's now all open.
Right.
From Alexandria to Aswan. And the guests can be moving through the country from one governorate into the other normally. It's like just keep the caution. They don't, I appreciate this, but actually the media here in Egypt, for once, are dealing, in my opinion, very professional with the COVID-19 thing, that they are not trying to bring that for people to fear or panic state. So everything is calm. They're saying positive things, the numbers, it's not that dangerous, like that.
Right.
And I don't think it is myself.
Oh man, I have about 20 different directions I want to go with you tonight, and we're going to try to get all of them in. And I'm actually going to start in an area that I've never heard you speak about, which that is Alexander the Great and Cleopatra. Over here in the States, there is a lot of talk, and I don't know what's being discussed in Cairo, right? But you're the guy to talk to about this. That the search is on, right, for Alexander's tomb and Cleopatra's tomb. What's the chatter like there in Cairo? Are these active archaeological sites, and is this what is being pursued right now up in Alexandria?
This has been like for very, very long time. It's like a dream for archaeologists to find the tomb of Alexander the Great, thinking there is, of course, would be a huge amount of artifacts and treasures and something that will be similar to the discovery of King Tutankhamun. Many people estimated different locations, like there is one that it's in the center of Alexandria, actually, and near the Roman theater, very close to the Roman theater in Alexandria. And there is another one also near the Roman theater, but from the northeast to it. The other one is from the west to direction. So, yeah, but as you know, that I prefer researching in much, much more ancient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Cleopatra and Alexander, they are like, that already for me means the Egyptian civilization is almost over.
They're the newcomers.
We have a similar tomb that archaeologists been like really dreaming of finding it, which is the tomb of the great architect Imhotep from the 3rd dynasty, because of the great wealth of knowledge and the many titles that he had in healing and medicine and architect and alchemy and many different things. So also many people, many archaeologists dream of finding the tomb of Imhotep. And some people estimate that it might be located in the area of Buwizir or Abu Sir today, which back in the days used to be a very large area, but today it's only the name of the village located between the Giza Plateau and Saqqara, to the south of the Giza Plateau and to the north of Saqqara.
Can you imagine back then, Imhotep, how he was compared to everybody else? Like, he was the smartest guy in the room, maybe the world. His vision and the way that he was able to see these sites and see the construction and the engineering that would have to go into it. He was singular, Yousef. He was like the only guy like that.
Well, I believe he was a genius for sure, but also there is the background that he was one of the priests of the very ancient and mysterious city Un or Iono, or the one known as Heliopolis here in Egypt. So they are the one who have who had the myth, if we can call it a myth, about the primordial mounds and the bin. So actually the only story that is passed down from the ancient Egyptian civilization that talks about the pyramid and the design of it and the information about it. And of course, the information here is about life, actually, not this, because the story of the primordial mound and the pyramidian shape, which is known as the bin, is actually connected to the myth of creation.
Now, this is where the knowledge from your father is so valuable. And let's talk about that for a second, because when it comes to Imhotep, my introduction to him was from the movie The Mummy with Boris Karloff. Right? But I'm 5 years old, right? This is 1968, right? 50 years ago. Yeah. And but it's a name that you'll never forget, right? You carry it with you forever. And I was always intrigued. Every time I hear Imhotep, I lean forward and I'm listening because I understand how important he was. But his lineage and his history and where he got his foundation from, this is something that your father handed down to so many people for years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Imhotep, also the ancient Egyptian, carried his name for a long time, as you were just mentioning.
Right.
Because the name of Imhotep was mentioned on walls and tombs and in coffins and papyrus for over 2,500 years. So in the end, he became like an idol to be worshipped for medicine. So not just me, but many doctors also believe that Imhotep is the one who should be the icon or the symbol of doctors and medicine, not the Greek idol Asclepius.
Right.
Because Imhotep was a real person. He had the real foundation of doctors and medicine, how to know the disease, what causes the disease, all the things that doctors are depending on until today to deal with many of the illness of people. And of course, he was an architect. And there is something very important also that connects Imhotep to the research that we do in the Khemit school, which, as you know, we like to follow the what's labeled as the ancient advanced technology or ancient advanced machining.
Mm-hmm.
There is evidence that Imhotep reproduced some of the artifacts, which is specifically the vessels made from stone. And it's known to the archaeologist that he reproduced these vessels and he created the tools that they made, that they used, the drill, the manual hand drill with weights and the piece of flint held horizontally in the drill, so it would be span and carving down, but only of one type of stone, which is the calcite. Calcite is much softer than the other types of stones that was used in much more ancient time, even from the pre-dynastic time, and stone vessels were made from very hard types of stones like basalt stone or slate, and also quartz, Persia, diorite gneiss, and many, almost every type of stone was used in making these. So to find actually that he reproduced it, and for the professional stone worker's eye will see the difference between the result of the tools that he invented or that was invented during his time, and the other results of the older ones, which seems to be actually the older ones are much more advanced in their machining.
Now, well, let me jump in right there, Yousef, because I'm of the opinion that those vases, those vessels that you're referring to, of which there are tens of thousands, right? They're all over the place, are probably the most beautiful things that man has ever created, and are probably as important as the Great Pyramid. But they are not discussed. Why don't the Egyptologists of the world talk about those beautiful vases and how they were made back then 5,000 years ago?
Mm-hmm. This is a very good point. You are absolutely right. They are as important as the pyramids because they are reflecting, some of them, the older ones, the much more ancient ones, are reflecting the same tubular drill machining, which we see in the pyramid structure.
That's right.
And we didn't find it as a tool in the tombs, or we didn't find it as a scene on the wall of any of the old kingdom tombs. The only scene of drills is the one that we were just talking about.
Yeah. So when you look at them, I feel like I interrupted you. I apologize.
It's okay.
But when you look at them, it's something that would be difficult to do today. It can be done for sure. There's no question about it. But when you look at the perfection and the artistry and its value aesthetically, it just can't be measured. But you have to remember that we're talking about 4,500 years ago. And that's the part that, that's right. And most people don't grasp that. And like I said, that it must have been easy for them to do, because there have been excavations in Egypt where they have found 10,000 of these at a time, right?
40,000 or more were found in the corridors underneath the Step Pyramid in Saqqara.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. They're stunning to look at, just stunning.
Some of it is made from rock crystal, clear rock crystal, and milky quartz, and amethyst, jasper, porphyry, Persia, slate, diorite, cyanite, granodiorite, diorite gneiss, granite stone, rose granite, and obsidian, like all the types of stones from Egypt. And then we followed some of the materials also, and we found that it was brought from Sudan, Borkol Mountain. Some types of diorite gneiss are located in Borkol Mountain and another area called Arusa in Sudan. And remember, these were found in locations pre-dynastic. So when you said 4,500 years ago, that timeline, according to the mainstream timeline, will be fitting the fourth dynasty. But we are talking pre-dynastic, so more than 3,500 BC.
Incredible.
Yeah, actually, there is one of the sites that was excavated in area called the Toshka in the south, and when it was carbon dated, radiocarbon dating gave it a timeline between 12,000 and 14,500 years ago. So, and the mummies, the burials were very primitive. Still, these amazing vessels were there. Of course, in industrial and machining studies, they talk about the corundum powder and the copper drill and all these things. And it's very functional. Even that the ancient Egyptians in the dynastic time who left us scenes of every detail of their life, in their daily life scenes on the walls, didn't leave that. Plus also something very important, two things actually. The reproducing of Imhotep in the third dynasty, and he only focused on one type of stone, not all the types, because what does it require to bring all the types of stones? You need to send expeditions, of course, to find and search for that stone, because they are brought from very different locations. Some of them, as I said, from Sudan, some from the Western Desert, some from the Eastern Desert, you know.
And
so
yeah, and you had, of course, the Nile, so possibly even further south, maybe Ethiopia.
Yeah, we like from all over. With the obsidian is not from Egypt as well.
That's
probably
right.
Somewhere like Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's right.
And lapis lazuli was brought from the pre-dynastic time. So that ancient era also, and I'm not talking the ancient advanced, I'm talking the pre-history era, was actually more advanced also than we think, and they were capable of traveling and creating. But the comparison here that everybody is dismissing is if they had the capability in the Neolithic era to travel and extract these very high quality types of stones and bring them back and then manufacture them in this accuracy that challenges our capability today. You know, these hard stones, you cannot run it on a lathe directly. You need another diamond rotating tip so it can be carrying it. Not just, you know, so the lathe will be spinning and you need another rotating tip to be moving with it so that it can create a shape in that stone. But you cannot just put a carbide blade to it and then it will carve it right away. No, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And
no.
And obviously there was no metallurgy during this period as well. Yousef, take a break right there. Just be patient. Yeah. We'll get our commercial in. Live from Cairo tonight, Yousef Awyan. It's going to be a great conversation. When we come back, we're going to talk more about these ancient technologies. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is night 3 of Egypt Week here on Fade to Black. Stay with me. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Patricia, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Tonight is night 3 of Egypt Week here on Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Yousef Awyan, live from Cairo, steps away from the Great Sphinx. And I got to say, do you ever get tired, Yousef, of waking up in the morning and looking out at the Great Sphinx? Does it ever get old?
Never.
It can't.
No, it's actually the more you live near it, the more you become connected to it.
It has to be that way. And
yeah.
I look forward to our trip over to Egypt and hanging out with you and Patricia. It's going to be amazing when we finally get a chance to pull that off.
Now, before the break, we were talking about technology. And one of the things that, and I mentioned this in my opening rant at the beginning of the show, is that one of the things of many, but that Egyptologists, including Zahi, by the way, that one of the things that they avoid talking about is how big or small the population was back in ancient Egypt, because it doesn't support their dogma of how these things were built in their timeline between 3000 and 2500 BC, of which there were hundreds of sites and the pyramids and all the biggest stuff. Everything was built supposedly during this period, according to them. But if you look at the population of Egypt at that time, there quite simply wasn't enough people, enough fit adult males to do all of this construction. It just doesn't make any sense. But they don't want to talk about that because it's the hard numbers. Clearly, everything got built because we can see it, right? We can look at it, but it wasn't done the way that they are trying to have the world believe, right?
I believe so as well. Like, there are no hard documentation, solid evidence, conclusive evidence about all these numbers. There is only, like, they're estimating if they are using around 100,000. And remember, lots of the words were said by Herodotus and other historians that they just heard it from the priest at that time, 300 BC, 400 BC, 500 BC, when the Greek civilization was blending with the ancient Egyptian civilization at its end. But the solid facts, you can find it in the structure itself. So when we study the pyramid and its complexity, the challenge of implementation, and the result after they took this challenge, all this is reflecting the builders and the equipments, because we have the tool marks in the stone. But then we have the studies, and then, as you were mentioning, I actually found this in some of the official books, that when they talk about the civilization, they talk about the pre-history era, and the pre-dynastic, and then early dynastic or the archaic age, and then the Old Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And they can go through all this era without mentioning the stone vessels. Why? They only mention the pottery development, like the pottery in Nakada, which is one of the pre-dynastic eras, and Marmada and El Badari, and all these are the names of the locations where they found some of the Neolithic villages and their artifacts. So supposedly the stone vessels were already being produced during this time. But if you look at the pottery and then compare it with the amazing work of the stone in it, then there is something definitely is missing, because you find this amazing vessels from quartz and from Persia and all the types of stones we have mentioned before, and then you find pottery that is burnt in a way that made half of it brown and half of it black, and has random shapes because it was made by and shaped by hand. Because at that time, they didn't invent the pottery wheel yet. So how can we have these two artifacts in the same burial and related to the same timeline of the Neolithic era, for example, and what comes after? If we find something that is reflecting a great challenge of bringing the stone and manufacturing it with something that looks like a lathe, tubular drills, very fine striations of the machining, and then side by side with pottery that was made by hand before they do the pottery wheel.
Yeah, it's too easy. It's easy to talk about the pottery, right? The difference of the pottery between Upper and Lower Egypt, who had the better pottery. It's a challenge to turn around and then try to explain away these amazing stone vessels, which, one, the pottery looks like something my kids made in kindergarten, right? It does, compared to the vessels. And the vessels, they can't explain away. So I have watched, and it's funny that you say this, because I have watched documentaries, Yousef, documentaries on the pottery of ancient Egypt, right? Not one mention of a stone vessel, but they will spend 2.5 hours talking about the pottery and the kilns in Upper and Lower Egypt and who had the better pottery. And not one mention of something far much more interesting and intriguing, which are the stone vessels, which are everywhere.
Yeah, which goes also to very old times. And then why would Imhotep choose to reproduce it from one type of stone? Because his tool, even with a piece of flint that is 8 on the Mohs scale, is not going to be effective trying to empty out a stone from Persia, for example, or from porphyry.
No, it would crumble. It would crumble.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the fraction and the solidness is going to damage any tool, even iron. Flint is actually stronger than iron because it's 8 in the Mohs scale. And I'm talking about the iron development, so it's not like today's carbide tips and stainless steel and things like that. We're talking about the iron of the ancient times, which was just a little bit harder than bronze.
So let's talk about some specifics really quick. Let's have some fun. The bee images in Imhotep's titles, what do those mean?
Imhotep name itself doesn't have a bee. It has an owl and it has a reed with 2 legs and then the symbol Hatib itself. The symbol of the reed with 2 legs and the owl is the Im, which means who comes. And then Hatib can mean peace or food or prosperity. So Imhotep, but one of his titles will have the bee, of course, because he was the carrier of the royal seal.
That's why you're on the show, Yousef, right there. Well done. Well done. I got to tell you, I started to take a course in reading and writing hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Oh, it's a challenge. Don't get me wrong. But now I can look at hieroglyphs and I can pick out a few things. And I feel pretty good. It's very interesting and fun at the same time. And little things that I didn't, I have Egyptian stuff here in my studio. And now I can look at and now I know what these certain things mean. But speaking of hieroglyphs, let's talk about probably the most important aspect of it is the lack of them at the Great Pyramid. It just doesn't make any sense. Why do you think that it is left unmarked?
There is also big question mark at that part because some archaeologists say that decoration was not popular at that time. We don't find actually hieroglyphs in the Great Pyramid or in Khufu Pyramid or Khafra Pyramid or Menkaura Pyramid. And it's a mystery, of course. In many cases, if you find the chamber underground with no hieroglyphs or scenes, they will say it's an unfinished tomb. The pyramids were finished, and we have another pyramid that's supposed to be older, which is the Bent Pyramid in Dashur. There are no hieroglyphs inside the pyramid itself, but hieroglyphs were found in its valley temple. So if if hieroglyphs were already being added during the First Dynasty by supposedly the father of all of the pyramid builders in the Giza Plateau, Senefru, then why they don't have hieroglyphs inside them? And even like sometimes hieroglyphs could be carved later on much older structures. But if we want to talk about, if they want to convince us, the academics, that was because there was no decoration or inscriptions added, that's wrong. Because we have, of course, the tomb of Merisaan on the Giza Plateau. She was a queen. And she was a daughter of a prince, a wife of a king, and a mother of a king. Doesn't get more royal than that.
That's
Her
right.
tomb is a very similar to any of the old kingdom tombs of the fourth. It's from the fourth dynasty, that tomb. And also we have the tomb of the prince Khufu Kha'if, which he is supposed to be one of the sons of Khuf. And his tomb has the very famous scenes on the walls of him sitting and having the offering table in front of him, the famous formulas of Hatib Di Nisu, Hatib Di Impu, the boon given by the king to Anubis, and the very famous traditional art that you find in any tomb is exactly the same in the tombs of the fourth dynasty of the royal family. And they were normal tombs, not even small pyramids. We have some smaller pyramids on the eastern side of the Great Pyramid. Some of these pyramids housed burials. But when you visit inside, you find that shapes like coffins were carved in the bedrock for 3 or 4, maybe 4 burials in the same pyramid. So why is there no books from granite in that pyramid? And why it looks very like random that these designs, like a couple of them is in one direction and the one in another direction. So they are not put as if the design was not made for it, but they came over on the design. So in my opinion, that small pyramid was not a burial, and then it was reused as a burial for that princess later. It's famous one. Also, let's not forget that the site period in the 26th dynasty accessed many of the tombs and the pyramids and added inscriptions. And of course, many people believe that the Great Pyramid, Khufu Pyramid, which is labeled as the Great Pyramid, but actually, I will get back to what I was saying, but actually, the Middle Pyramid, which is the one that is related to Khafra, was the one mentioned in the ancient text as the Great Pyramid, not the Khufu Pyramid that we call the Great Pyramid. Literally, they called it Mer, means the Great Pyramid. And these are inscriptions you find in the Giza Plateau in tombs from the 6th dynasty, like the tombs of Idu and the Kar to the eastern side, has the names of the 3 pyramids, the 3 kings, and the names of the pyramids in it. And the pyramid of Khufu is called the Akhet Mer, which means the horizon, and the pyramid of Khafra was called Mer. The Great Pyramid is actually the Middle Pyramid.
Is that right?
And that's what the ancient Egyptian wrote in the Old Kingdom. So they called the Middle Pyramid the Great Pyramid.
Now, if Khufu and Khafre, let's just assume that we're going to believe the dogma, right? And those were their tombs. You go and you build the greatest thing on the planet. Don't you put your name on it, Yousef? I mean, like, you built this big, huge thing for yourself, so people will never forget you, and so you can go to the next world, and you can, all of the things that are built behind this, right? Don't you put your name on it somewhere?
That's what we were just saying. Like, why is there no decorations if the other tombs of the Fourth Dynasty, like Merisan and Khufu had the inscriptions? But it's not just that. You have the Pyramid of El-Lahun, and it's supposed to be from much further time, from the Middle Kingdom. Now they said the official books knows that the Pyramid of Wenis in Saqqara was the first pyramid text added in the inside. Later than that, which is the Middle Kingdom, you have the Pyramids of El-Lahun in Fayoum.
Right.
And it has no inscriptions as well. But, of course, there is always the possibility that it was unfinished. And this would be one of the good answers you hear, seem like why they didn't leave scenes of extracting stones. Also, extracting the stones is another mystery.
Yep.
Because of the difficulty of extracting hard stones out of the mother rock itself, all the conclusions came to that the ancient Egyptians during the Old Kingdom, which means the pyramid builders, according to the academic story, they didn't have the capability to extract solid stones such as granite out of the bedrock, but they depended on the loose pieces and the falling pieces. And of course, this is a result to the studies, or a conclusion from the studies of the toolbox that you can find in the Old Kingdom tombs. The stone pounders, the copper chisels, the stone knives, the sand powder for polishing, and all these things. But all these things are after the Third Dynasty, of course. This is not what geologists believe. When they look at the type of granite, for example, that is in the Valley Temple of the Middle Pyramid of Khafra, and in the ancient times, it was famous for the granite temple, because the Middle Pyramid actually received like tens of thousands of cubic meters of granite was used in the structure. We all know that the king's chamber in the so-called the king's chamber in the pyramid of Khufu is all cased in granite, but the causeway was, and the foundation of its very temple was from basalt stone, which is also not local to the area.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire casing of the pyramid was from the fine limestone, while the inner building was from the Nummulitic limestone. The Middle Pyramid had at least 2 levels of the casing stone, which is giant blocks, like the block would weigh around 10 tons, give or take.
Each one?
Each one, of course.
Yes.
Two courses of these stones surrounding the entire pyramid was brought from Aswan, from a very fine quality of granite stone. You can see, for those who knows about geology, the feldspar in it is huge, like in the composition of the stone itself. So when geologists look at it and examine some of it by the eye, of course, they say, like, this type of granite is a very high quality that cannot be found on the surface, that it has to be coming from the core. And I will take the white calcite crystal as a relevant factor to this. The white calcite crystal is coming from the core of the spring that formed that type of crystal, which known as alabaster stone for most of the people. And also, according to a geologist, and I would mention Susan Moore, she's one of my teachers, and I'm proud to say that. And of course, me touring with Dr. Robert Chuck more than once.
Sure.
All over Egypt. And this is also a very fine quality of the stone. So they didn't just choose a stone, no, they have chosen the best quality of stone. So the granite stone is not a surface stone, is from the core. So there is no doubt that they extracted solid stones. And of course, like we're talking about the pyramid builders, there is no, like their knowledge and their capability looks unlimited. And of course, the result is the pyramids itself. But it's the studies of the toolbox of the Old Kingdom tombs that led the archaeologists to believe that they didn't have the capability, because these are the tools. But we remember that there are tool marks in the pyramid, like the saw cutting in the granite and in the basalt stone and in the white calcite, that we can find the tool mark in the stone, but we cannot find it in the toolbox. We never found a saw that is supposed to be for stone.
Right.
We found a saw from copper, but this is known to be used for wood. Also, the bow drill was for wood. And the scenes on the walls showed in the vessels, they never showed a tubular drill. So it was not kept a secret or anything, because they put a scene that displays how did they shape and drilled and polished the stone vessels. But that was the manual one that was a reproduction during the time of Imhotep from white calcite or from alabaster only. But all the other types that is reflecting the same tool marks that we find on the pyramids, and they are much more ancient, they were not made by that process that was displayed on the wall in the Old Kingdom tombs.
Now,
so
can you imagine? We're going to take a break right here, but could you imagine, Yousef, if a crew leader came to you and said, "Okay, take this bow drill, and we need 20 holes drilled identical in this red granite. I'll be back." Right? You would be sitting there for years. Yes. Yeah. You would be sitting there with your bow drill. Your grandchildren would be born before you would have them finished.
It's actually what the dynastic Egyptians created was very functional for the types of stones, for the one type of stone actually that they used, which is alabaster. And remember, the piece of flint that used it as a blade is 8 on the Mohs scale. But that's smart. I chose one type of stone, not all the types of stones. Plus, I chose a stone that is soft, that I can shape. And then the shapes came random, not perfectly symmetrical as the older ones.
That's right.
So, and this is what is confusing, because the dynastic Egyptians, we should never underestimate their capability. They were constructing, they had knowledge, they had machining, and, the only thing in difference is that the power tools that the older eras have in its artifacts.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Yousef Awyan, live from Cairo, Egypt. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. It is night 3 of Egypt Week here on Fade to Black. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, tonight live from Cairo, Yousef Awyan. And it is night 3 of our Egypt week here on Fade to Black. And going back to what we were just starting to discuss Aswan, Yousef, which to me is one of the most fascinating aspects of everything that we can talk about, because it's logistics. It's just simple numbers. It's engineering, right? Where Aswan is 500 miles south of Cairo and is the source of not only the red granite, but other minerals as well. How did they get what? I want you to tell me how it happened. I'm not going to believe an Egyptologist here. How did they get it across the Nile and then up through the desert, or was it on the Nile, or how did they get it to Cairo?
Well, there is one scene that is that we are able to see when we visit Saqqara, and it's on the causeway of the Pyramid of Venice. And in this scene, there is a process of transferring granite pillars from Aswan, from Elephantine Island, specifically in Aswan, because that's where they used to bring the granite stone from at that time. And the scene shows cargo ships, and they are prepared in their design to carry a heavy load. They are prepared with high edges in the front and the back so that they would be in the water and wouldn't sink for heavy loads. So the dynastic Egyptians during the Old Kingdom used to have this technique or this capability of transferring it through the river. And also, they are granite stone, and they are the palm-shaped pillars, and the inscription says bringing them from Elephantine Island to the Pyramid of Venice. And the official story is that they built rams and docked the ships at the end of these rams on the ground. This ground was going to be water in the flood, during the flood. So they cannot load the ships while they are on the water. It's impossible. But they have to dock it to the ground and build rams and then drag with slides the stones to the ships and then wait for the flood. So they are capable of transferring one load every year with one flood. So lots of things. Also, and this, when you see it, it looks functional. And it is functional. But to achieve an entire, we were just talking about the middle pyramid, and thousands of cubics of meters were transferred. So you will need, like, in my opinion, if you have, there is no documentation of how many ships they had during the time of Khafra, and how many could they load, how many loads of granite stone. And plus, there is also other stones, like basalt stones coming from Fayoum. There is no river to bring it to Giza. Many stones were brought from the Eastern Desert, and other stones were brought from Hatnub. Anyway, also the scene on the wall of manufacturing the vessels is looking functional, but it doesn't explain how all the vessels were made. Also, the scenes on the tomb of Rakhmira of the ramrod from mud brick and how they can use it instead of scaffolding to raise a building is functional, but it doesn't explain all the structures and the challenges in all the structures. So as I was just saying before the break, that the dynastic Egyptians were capable of doing lots and lots of things. We have the unfinished statues from hard types of stones, and they are reflecting a hammer and a chisel. Many of the solid stones were shaped with hammers and chisels, but that doesn't explain everything, because we find other tool marks that was not displayed in the scenes on the walls of the civilization. And so I can give you many examples like that. That's why I consider the subject of the vessels again is very important, and that's why we focused on it in this meeting, because we have here two different things. We have a very ancient one, and we have another reproduction of it during the time of Imhotep. The very ancient one is reflecting very advanced machining, and the reproduction is reflecting the method that was displayed on the wall. So if you read between the lines, or if you use this thread that goes back to 12,000 years at least, because the 12,000 years is the radiocarbon dating of the very primitive burial of prehistory. But if the people in the archaic age inherited those artifacts, and we can sense this because the names of the kings from the archaic age, they are hardly scratches on the surface of these vessels, then I would assume that also the ones from the prehistory time, like the burials of Toshka, would also be inheriting these artifacts. But from whom? Who in that much more ancient time had this? And the importance of the subject is this thread is very similar to what we want to study about the pyramids itself, because the machining that is reflected on these artifacts is also reflected on the pyramid structure. So if we study those, we can at the same time be studying maybe the true history of the pyramids itself.
Well, I want to circle back to this 12,000 year date in just a minute, because it's very important in the discussion. But specifically about Aswan, when we take one specific example, just one, there's many, but if we just look at the relieving stones, the granite stones above the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, which goes up, 4 or 5 levels high. And each one of those stones is between 75 and 100 tons each. How big of a boat are we talking about in ancient Egypt that is supposedly, because that's a big boat, a boat that can displace 100-ton stone? That's a big boat. And they must have had, I don't know how many, but a fleet of those that are moving, because even, specifically talking about the relieving stones, we have the rest of the king's chamber to account for. That is a lot of logistics, Yousef, and the numbers don't support that. The population doesn't support that.
According to some of the books, the population was around 4 million. So that will support. And the story that the farmers would be like helping, and I disagree with the story. Like farmers now, they even not professional stone masons, and farmers built the pyramid.
Right.
And the other thing, the so-called tombs of the workers that was discovered by Dr. Zai Hawass. I don't think they were workers, all right, but not workers building the pyramid.
No, that's right. That's right.
Because I've visited these tombs and I've seen the titles and the careers of these old kingdom workers. And the oldest name of a king I found, and I asked the archaeologist at the site, and it was from the 5th dynasty. So one dynasty after building the pyramid. So what kind of workers is he talking about? And you have burials, very normal burials from the 5th dynasty and the 6th dynasty and until the Greco-Roman time, actually. There is one shaft there that has burials almost from all the eras in that area that is known as the tombs of the workers. So I think he just gave the site a big name so he can make this discovery something important. These are the builders of the pyramid. What is your evidence? There is no titles. There is no titles of the priests or the individuals who were buried there that they were stone masons at all. They were actually some very basic and simple workers in other, not something that is connected to building at all.
Now, if we look at this, going back to this 12,000 year date, right, or maybe even before, this is something that I have thrown out there over the years. I've discussed it with you before, but I think it's an important point, and that is maybe that Khafre and Khufu are not Khafre and Khufu and Menkaure, that maybe these were built much earlier, before hieroglyphs, before the dynastic periods, and that some of the pyramids that are out there, specifically maybe even the Ben Pyramid, the Red Pyramid, some of the stuff in Saqqara, were built after the Great Pyramids and the Giza Complex, trying to imitate what they were seeing on the Giza Plateau, but they just couldn't pull it off. I know it sounds crazy, but is it possible that the Great Pyramid, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, were just built much earlier, and the Egyptians, the modern Egyptians, inherited them?
Well, to study this, which I've been doing for a long time, first of all, the 12,000-year-old, the information is from the Nubian Museum in Aswan. So it's as official as it can be. It's not a research of individuals or somebody took a sample. No, this is an archaeological expedition that studied these burials before they built the dam, because all this entire area is flooded now by water. But the research results is displayed in the Nubian Museum in Aswan. And it also houses one of the statues of Khafra, similar to the ones that was found in the Valley Temple of the Middle Pyramid. And you can notice that the name of Khafra is carved on the surface of the statue, very crude as well, very similar to the vessels. The other question, or the other thing about how these artifacts, like the vessels, as we were saying, that it's one thread that leads perhaps to the truth. If they were inherited from an ancient advanced era and then an intermediate period happened, and the civilization descended and then started to ascend again till the time of Imhotep, where they could reproduce and reconstruct again from stone and imitate the older vessels by making new ones and things like that. We can look at one subject which I've been studying for a very long time, which is recycling the stones, and recycling the stones based on the famous wisdom that history repeats itself. We look at ourselves today. Every inheritor, and this includes us, that inherits the site will try to benefit from it the way they can. We use it as tourist attraction. It was never built to be used as tourist attraction, but now we use it like that to benefit from it. Throughout the ages, there was two ways. One is to use the structure itself to live in it or for some activities. The other very popular one was to use the structure as a quarry. And that was very popular throughout. There is like throughout the ages, all the sites, almost every site, the stones in it was recycled and built with it. Many cases on the same archaeological location. We have Dandara Temple, for example.
Why not? Yes. Why not? It's already cut for you.
Exactly. You have Dandara from the prehistory time until the latest structure is the Dandara Temple. We know it from a few hundred years BC. And we have another Coptic church also in the place that reused the stones from the temple, and they built a church on the same location. And we have Luxor Temple. You walk in the back and you see the display made by the archaeologists about the pieces of stones with the hieroglyphs on them that dates. This is from the Middle Kingdom. This is from the New Kingdom. So it was like a time machine for the stones that was being recycled. And sometimes you find one block has inscriptions from this side, and then when it was reused, also during the dynastic Egyptian time, you find it has two different hieroglyphs from two different dynasties, which doesn't mean that the older hieroglyphs is the original builder as well. It's not a conclusive evidence. Also, we have until the Islamic time, and you find in mosques like in the citadel of Salah ad-Din, the famous mosque of Qalawun. It's called the Nasr Muhammad ibn Qalawun Mosque. And you find that the pillars inside are taken from older structures. They took marble from Coptic churches, which the Coptic churches took them from Roman structures. And there is also granite pillars that were taken from Roman structures, which was taken by the Romans from ancient Egyptian temples, and so on. And we have documentation, official documentation of reusing the stone on a wide scale, and specifically from the Giza Plateau during the Middle Kingdom of dynastic Egypt, which goes, according to the mainstream timeline, to around 2100 BC. They have conclusive evidence that is documented in the official books that the stone was reused during the Middle Kingdom to build other pyramids with it, an area called Elisht, smaller pyramids for the famous kings Amenemhat and Senusert. And they found inscriptions that goes back to the Old Kingdom on the slabs of stones, and they believe that it was taken from the Giza Plateau. We have other things from, of course, the New Kingdom. We have Ramses II. He had his famous priest that left inscriptions and hieroglyphs near the Middle Pyramid that says that he was officially responsible about the quarries for King Ramses II. And it's known also to the archaeologists that he used the stones of the Middle Pyramid of Khafra to build other structures, such as the famous Ptah temple in the village of Memphis, not far from Giza, and it's in the way to Dahshur. also built other structures with the stones of the Middle Pyramid in the city of Heliopolis. But as far as like the official books goes to the Middle Kingdom to document recycling the stones, because we then believe that the Old Kingdom are the original builders. Then if I put in mind that, as you were just saying, that the Old Kingdom was also another inheritors of something that is much more ancient, and I'm not denying that they built layers as we did, and as all the inheritors built layers on the side, and it changed how it looks. Then we open our eyes and look when we are walking on the Giza Plateau. And I did several years ago. I was exploring around, because you know the Giza Plateau is wide, huge, acres and acres of land. At one spot, specifically at a tomb from the end of the Fourth Dynasty, from the region of Shepsis Kaf, or Shepsis Kaf, one of his priests, the name of the priest was Ra-Wer. Ra-Wer's tomb is close to the Third Pyramid and near the causeway of the Middle Pyramid.
That's right.
In that tomb, you find, of course, it's ruined, the ceiling collapsed and everything, but the lower part shows how the structure or how this tomb was constructed to look like. And there is a big offering hall in the middle of the tomb. The offering hall has round tables of white calcite crystal used as offering tables. The shape of it immediately caught my eye, and I looked at it and I saw a carved scene of the priest with the Kherib scepter, or the Sechem scepter in his hand, famous scene of the priest. That scene was added on one of the sides. That's why the round stone was rounded from all over the stone, except for the face that was recarved. And I would know them very well, because they are not originally offering tables. They were actually bases of pillars from white calcite crystal. So an entire structure was carved from or constructed from white calcite crystal, and he used the bases of the pillars of that old structure as offering tables in his tomb. I have this documented as well, but it's not officially documented. So this is my own research. The discovery of that tomb was by the Dr. Selim Hassan, and he mentions the tomb, and he said like the shape of these offering tables looks odd, because we all know how that offering tables look like that symbol of the Hotep and not a round thing. So he did mention that it's odd, but he didn't realize that they are bases of pillars. Of course, I noticed it right away. So we have evidence from the Fourth Dynasty that they were already recycling from older structures. That's the point.
It makes you wonder how much of Cairo is built from the casing stones.
All Cairo.
Yeah, all Cairo, exactly. I mean, I would.
Cairo.
Yeah, if I'm building and I'm going, man, there's no guards over there, right? Let's just go and, man, let's get some of those white casing stones. Let's build something new. But let's go back to Robert Schoch for a second and John Anthony West before we hit this break. If we look at the dating, which I think is accurate and it makes a lot of sense for many reasons, we don't have to go into that now. But if we go back to a 10,000 BC, 11,500 BC dating time, is it your conclusion too that if the Sphinx can be dated back then could Menkaure, Khafre, and Khufu also be placed back around that same time period?
Well, the time that Dr. Robert Schoch gave, which is according to the latest update that I heard from him, was 11,700. years ago, around that time. And this would be at least, it cannot be less than 11,700 because this is the time when that rainy era ended. The rainy era that caused the erosion on the stone from water. The severe erosion that we find also on the limestone in the third pyramid and the middle pyramid, according to also geologists, it looks like it could be tens of thousands of years for the age of the stone from the erosion that we see.
When we come back after the break, I want to talk about Thoth and a couple of other things and stuff that you guys are teaching over at the Khemit school. I want to go deep into that, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But for me, Yousef, it's Edfu, and it's the building text and what is represented there. That, again, I really feel that Egyptologists are looking away from the significance of Edfu and what it represents and the timeline, because it just wrecks their dogma and the historical record. Don't you think so?
There is definitely lots of things to be reconsidered at all the sites, not just Edfu.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. Let's take our break right here. What a great conversation going on right now. Our guest, of course, Yousef Awyan, live from Cairo, Egypt. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is night 3 of our Egypt week. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics help create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFONightVisionGoggles.com. That's UFONightVisionGoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great conversation tonight. Night 3, Egypt Week here on Fade to Black. And our guest tonight, Yousef Awyan, but everybody knows here, this audience knows how important Egypt is to me. And I spend so much time talking about it, but probably not enough. And Yousef, you and what you do and what your father and his knowledge has brought to this community, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to extend our heartfelt thanks to everything that you have done and what your father has brought us. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
One of the, and I'm sure you never get tired of hearing that, man. He was such a cool guy, man. Oh, God. I can't imagine what it would be like to sit around and drink some tea and hang out with him, something that you have done so many times and just absorbing, right? Like a sponge. That's what
exactly.
You have to let it soak in. I want to talk about Thoth. And if we talk about the times, right? The periods and how far back this ancient history goes, and we look at Thoth and what he brings to the table, could he be the most important god and the bringer of knowledge and the teacher for the world in Egypt?
Well, according to the ancient text, not much importance in the very ancient times, but he gained his importance more during the New Kingdom time and further as the master of the divine words. In the ancient times, the Jehuti was a symbol of the calendar, and one of the years that they used to calculate began with his name. In the New Kingdom, we find his most famous title, Neb Medu Neter. And Neb means Lord or Master.
Mm-hmm.
Medu Neter is the literally means the divine words. And this was the name of the ancient Egyptian language at that time, Medu-Neter, because of course we all know that the word hieroglyphs is from hieroglyphos, and it's a Greek title for the holy writings or the holy images. So he was the master and the record keeper, of course.
And for,
symbol of the wisdom that is coming from above. And we have another Jehuti, which is not just the ibis bird. We have also Jehuti, the baboon, which is connected to the sun culture. But the most important was always the sun. Ra, or you can call it Atum, also can be labeled as Amun, even that Amun is the stage of the sun when it's hidden. Khepar is the dawn. It's also another state of the sun. Atom is the complete, and it's also a state of the sun. Atom Ra, and Amun Ra, and Khebru Ra. They are all related. So the cycle itself was represented. Life was given through the sun or the light. That's why Ra was always the most important neter in the civilization.
We should, in the future, we should do a show specifically on the gods of Egypt. And, to break each one down. And I'll tell you the reason for it. We see the hieroglyph, we see the images, and sometimes we hear the names, but we don't really know, about these gods specifically and the roles that they had. And each one of them, with the title tied to it for sure, but each one of them had a very specific reason for being there.
Yeah, but also you have to be aware that the priest used to change sometimes these titles to fit in their benefit. There's also like, if the power now is in this, it seems like politics today. If the power now is in the hand of the followers of that neter, they can give him titles of other neters. So people who are looking for these powers come and give me the offering, because my God has all the powers you need. And we take Amun, for example. He became everything. He took entire psalms that used to belong to Ra and then was dedicated to him. And this is what was changed from the ancient text in the pyramids into the book of the gates, or coming out to the light, which is famous to be known as the Book of the Dead. Lots of these chapters are much more ancient than what was rewritten to Amun. The one that had lots of his text didn't change with Amun followers, especially, was Osiris, because he had his connection to the people from actually prehistory. And so even the titles were changed sometimes. Even Osiris titles, like the citizen of the West, Khemit Amantiu, that famous title used to belong once to another neter called Wep Wawa, the path opener, the white jackal, and things like that. So actually that subject about the netters needs a series, not just one show. It needs a lifetime if it's enough to talk about it.
It's very interesting that you bring this up, because Akhenaten, if we talk about that period, the priests made not only a living, but in some cases, a lot of wealth was based around what they had. What's the word I want to use here? Industry, right? They had a they had a way of making a living by marketing their priesthood. And this went on year round. Akhenaten comes around and messed it up for everybody, and the priests were not happy, were they?
Of course, they weren't happy because he became a new competition.
Right.
In my opinion, it was not I know there are many people out there who believes a lot in Akhenaten, but yeah, he was a threat to that, if we can call it, party.
It was a party. Oh, the priests were living large, weren't they, Yousef?
Oh yeah, of course. From the Old Kingdom, actually, the Old Kingdom had much more wealth. You could find one priest owns like thousands of cows and ranches and ships and manufacturing, and so they were not just doing ceremonies in the temple. They were running business.
That's right.
Of industrial and raising animals and birds and agriculture, manufacturing ships. We have the Tomb of Tea in Saqqara that has several activities. Almost all the high priests in the Old Kingdom used to have these huge wealth that allowed them or made them capable of creating these also magnificent tombs. One tomb can be as good as a larger museum that you can explore for many days.
Yeah, can you imagine the priest, hanging out? Hey, man, did you hear what Akhenaten did yesterday?
He's going down.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to rise up. Well, actually, that's what they did, too, as well.
And they won.
And they won. They won.
Yeah.
He split town.
We all know, or for those who don't know, Akhenaten was in the beginning called Imhotep. So he was one of the followers of Amun in the beginning. And then Akhenaten is related to the Aton, which is another phase of the sun. Many people believe that he created that, but this is not true. The word Aton itself exists from the very ancient times in ancient Egypt. So the true belief that he used a much older title, but to his benefit. Think of it like politically. He wanted to pull the power out of the priest of Amun's and create his own. But he actually, if we talk about the glory of the country at his time, which is New Kingdom, he actually was focusing all on that his own things, very limited, and he lost a huge empire that was created by Tutmosis at the time. Like there are famous messages that was found and documented that between Egypt and Byblos in Lebanon, which used to be one of the cities that was not occupied, but it was like one of our allies. So Byblos was lost during the time of Akhenaten, and it was like a big thing for Khemit back here at the time. How can you lose such a loyal city like Byblos? And when I went to Byblos, actually, I found that it's almost an ancient Egyptian city in Lebanon.
The departure, I mean, his death, I know they found his tomb in KV 55 and his coffin, which is remarkable to look at. But Nefertiti is a whole nother consideration. Do you think that we will ever find her burial site?
Well, as archaeologists say, nobody knows what one axe in the ground could change history. So, yeah, it can happen. Or maybe it was it already happened long time ago and it was robbed. We can never know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
One last thing. I want to spend some time on this. And I talked to a few researchers about this over the years. But I'm fascinated with it. And that is the Black Pyramid, right? The fourth pyramid. Did it exist?
We have Black Pyramids. You mean the one in Dahshur?
The one that was allegedly at the Giza Plateau that has been seen. Yeah, that has been seen in different illustrations from explorers that went to Egypt that said that there were 4 pyramids on the Giza Plateau.
It's a possibility. There are many foundations of smaller pyramids that you can see in the Giza Plateau. Perhaps big structures like this could be totally removed. And if it's a Black Pyramid, perhaps it was from mud break, like the ones in Fayoum. And the mud break ones are not meaning that it's an easy structure. Because, for example, the one in Fayoum, the one in Hawara, it was built from mud brick and it used to be cased with giant blocks of limestone. Plus, the core of it was carved in the limestone mound, and they housed in that limestone bedrock after they carved in it. They housed a 110-ton yellow transparent quartzite chamber. Very rare, and we don't know where they got the stone from. And actually, there is no access to that now, so all the data we have from the older books. So to find also another pyramid, like the pyramid of, or the one that is related to Jedefra in Abu Rawash, and that this pyramid was quarried to the ground, according to Flinders Petrie, he witnessed that not less than 100 loads of camels were taken from that location every day. And as you were mentioning, like you said, like there is no guards here, let's go take some stones. Right. Actually, there was guards, and these guards were responsible about collecting money from those who are taking the stones. So as I told you, inheritors will try to benefit from the situation the way they can. Like even if somebody's taking the stones, like I take a fee for every load of stone. That's what the system did at the time.
Sure. And that site, it looks like that pyramid was as big as the Great Pyramid.
I wouldn't think so, because these older drawings sometimes are, you know, exaggerating. If there was a structure as big as the Great Pyramid in the Giza Plateau, it will be at least some ruins. But I could see maybe as big as the third pyramid.
Right, right.
Which is still large.
It's still large.
Yeah, but it could, if it's mud brick, they can take the fine limestone of the casing. This was very useful because they made plaster out of it, and not just using the stones to build with it, like what happened in Coptic Cairo is all constructed, as we were just talking. All Coptic Cairo is constructed from ancient stone structures. All Islamic Cairo is the same case. So the citadel of Salah ad-Din and the mosques and the churches, the roads, the houses, everything. The wall, that great wall that in Cairo called Sur Majra al-Ayun, is also all extracted from the Giza Plateau. So, yeah, it could be there and it could be taken away. The fine limestone will be taken away. Perhaps the white calcite foundations, and there is an area where I visited several times, and there is a huge amount of white calcite crystal with some bases of pillars as well and stuff like that. And it's good to find some ruins of it. the mud bricks if it was black because it was constructed in the inside, the core of it, of mud brick, then it was going to be taken because this mud brick had a very special ability to fertilize the land. So they used to take it, the farmers used to take it until not long time ago. They used to take from these pyramids from mud brick to use it as a fertilizer. Perhaps the power of the energy of the pyramid structure gave the mud brick extra abilities, and it gives the plants much healthier and strength.
Yeah, it allows them to grow.
Yeah.
Now, when I arrive in Cairo with my wife, right, and we meet with you, I'm going to say to you, Yousef, take me to Edfu, right? That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say. And you're going to say, no, Jimmy, I'm going to take you here first. Where are you going to take me?
Well, you must see the Giza Plateau. I will I'll take you everywhere. I'll take you to Saqqara and Dahshur and Memphis and Abu Sir and Giza Plateau. Yeah.
But what for you? What's the site that you want me to see first?
I cannot dismiss the Giza Plateau. You would want to see it first, but I would. I love Abu Sir. Abu Sir and Abu Ghurab for me is very important site because it has a good amount of evidence about the machining and also tubular drills and saw cutting and different types of stones and everything. And of course, I must take you to Saqqara as well to see all the kingdom tombs with the carvings on the walls to see how the ancient Egyptians lived. And then I'll take you to Edfu.
Yeah.
But that's in Upper Egypt. So we will need to take an aeroplane or a train.
Yeah, that's. I've got a private jet. So I wanted to.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
Take me with you.
Yeah, we'll take that. The is it Abu Sir that has the giant stone bowls?
Abu Ghurab.
Yes, I want to see those too.
Oh yes, of course. We'll have to see those.
I mean, it doesn't. When we talk about all these, great sites with these things, but those bowls are perplexing to me. I don't understand their purpose, and there are so many of them at that site. What were they used for? What do you think was going on?
Well, nobody knows for sure. We can only imagine. According to the official book, the basins and the pipes and they were all part of a system that was running in the structure, in the temple, if we can call it a temple. And for them, they label it as a sewer system to release the liquids that was used during worshipping by the priesthood. And I disagree with the label because when we were exploring, we find parts of these systems are still in their location.
Mm-hmm.
And the basin itself is solid and it has no other hole to release the liquid out of it. So
we're talking about possibly blood, right?
No.
What do you think the liquids were?
Water.
You think it was water?
Yes.
Very
water water. Water is can be the biggest secret.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I agree. Well, when you look at all of those cisterns, all of the bowls lined up, and you're picturing, blood or something else, it takes your mind to a dark place. I mean, that's just a crazy thought because there's so many of them and they are big. They're not small. These are what? They're like 10 feet by 10 feet.
No, less than that.
What? Okay, 9
We
feet.
don't use
9 feet.
and also the material.
Yes.
They were carved from white calcite crystal. It's not limestone. It's crystal.
And it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful, and it is reflecting saw machining and the tubular drills. So it has the same, what we call advanced machining or ancient advanced machining. Also, why you choose this type of stone that you bring from far away, and then these basins used to be sheeted with copper in the inside of it and connected to pipes from copper running underneath the floor of the temple. You can find part of the system like that in Abu Sir, and it was documented by Ludwig Burckhardt, the German archaeologist, when he excavated the place around between 1904 and 1912. Yeah. So if you're gonna sheet it with copper, why you didn't just use limestone? If you're gonna put copper sheets on top of it anyway, nobody's going to see the beauty of the white calcite. So it had to be also functional. It was the function of the crystal. And there are others of limestone and others of quartzite. So the chosen types of stones are used for a reason. That this kind of knowledge, we still don't really understand, but it's biological alchemy that could really be very useful for us to be living with.
Yeah, I think alchemy is the key word there.
Yeah, that's where the word Khemit. Khemit is the word of alchemy, is the source of the word alchemy. It's coming from the ancient Egyptian name of Egypt.
Yesterday on the show, Yousef, we had Billy Carson on, and we went through his favorite sites, and we did this interactive thing and his photography and some of the videos that he had shot throughout Egypt. And he said something very interesting to me, something that's been said over the years. But I said, okay, Billy, your favorite place, you're going back to Egypt, where are you going to go? And he said, man, I'm going to go straight back to the Great Pyramid. I said, really? And he said, man, there is something about the Grand Gallery when you're there and you see it, it doesn't feel like a temple. It doesn't feel like a shrine. It doesn't feel like a tomb. He said, you feel like you're walking through a machine or a factory. It feels that way to me, and I've got to figure out why. And there's a connection with the King's Pyramid, and I just don't feel that it's a tomb. There's something mechanical going on there. You've just mentioned something mechanical 3 or 4 times in the last 15 minutes when we're talking about these things. Do you feel the same way about the Great Pyramid?
Well, what I feel about the Great Pyramid and many other spots in the Giza Plateau, I don't have words to express it, actually. But, yeah, I read and found a word about the symbol Akh, where the word Akhet came from, as the label that was given to the Great Pyramid or to the Khufu Pyramid. And in the dictionaries, it's translated to spiritual power and intellectual ability. And let me tell you, this is what you get when you visit the pyramid of Khufu specifically.
Mm-hmm.
You get this, you become more intelligent, for sure. This is my experience. I'm not a physicist or a doctor to tell you how this happened, but I want to tell you it happened. And also spiritually or energetically, you become more stronger. You can spend the whole day on the Giza Plateau. In the end of the day, you are not wasted. You are not tired. You're radiating. You're pulsing energy. You've been charged. This is what I feel. This is what I get every time. And if my mind doesn't know what happens, my body, my senses recognizes what happens. So if I stayed away from the Giza Plateau for a week or two, and then I went back, then these senses in me, they start to feel back that I am receiving something that is good and healthy. And my body welcomes that energy to feed back again.
I'm sure. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sure everybody feels that too when they arrive there. Hence not only the attraction, but everybody constantly wants to return again and again. They must have those same vibes.
Exactly. Even if we don't know logically why, but something else in us, some other awareness in us connects with it. I have many things to say about this. Perhaps one of the things I would see that we once were much more powerful than a huge structure like that. And with the cycles, we lost, or we became far away from that understanding of our capabilities. Then when we go back to the site, it somehow reminds us of who we were.
Who do we blame for this? Who do we blame for this? Do we blame Ptolemy? Do we blame the Greeks? Do we blame the Romans? Do we blame the Persians? You know, the different invasion forces, right? Because everybody wanted a piece of Egypt. That forced us into amnesia, right? To forget all of the ancient knowledge. And eventually, after Cleopatra, right, everybody forgot how to read hieroglyphic. Nobody knew anything about the history anymore and the language. It just all went away, didn't it?
Not totally. The stories transformed. So it was no longer being written in the same science, but it took another form, which is the Coptic language.
Sure.
As the ancient Egyptian language written with Greek letters. And the culture itself remained the culture of the era before that, of the dynastic times, and until today, actually. So the Coptics kept the language running. And after the explaining and understanding what's written in the Rosetta Stone, it was because he knew Coptic. It was because Champollion himself and all the other researchers got back to the Coptic language to confirm the meaning of the hieroglyphic words. So the language never perished. It was still there. It took a different form. And many of the ceremonies around the world. But for that other subject of who we blame, we cannot blame anybody. It was much more ancient than that. When if we talk about the pyramids, then as you were just saying, the pyramids, or as your guest was saying, the pyramids feel like no temple or no tomb, or it's something else. So if we're gonna blame somebody, we blame the Amun priest.
Well, it's fascinating if you think about this, Yousef. I mean, I'm being serious right now. Cleopatra is a closer relative to you than to ancient Egypt. She's only 2,000 years removed, right? And she, when she ruled Egypt, she was ruling a kingdom that was 3,000 or 4,000 years old at that point, right? That she is closer to us than she was to the kingdom she was ruling. That's how old this ancient history is that we're talking about. Most people don't realize the amount of time that we're talking about.
Yeah. Even Ramses II or Tutankhamun, when they were kings, there are other structures that is thousands of years old. For them, the pyramid is like when they found the steles around the Sphinx, for example. The steles of many kings like Tutmosis and Imhotep and from the New Kingdom time. For them, this was at the time a lush and green and hunting area. And it was like for them a place to, like they used to visit this area for hunting, or like they're going out on a journey to be hunting in the presence of Hurem Akhet, or the Sphinx. That was its title or its name at the time of the New Kingdom. So even for them, these were ancient structures. Even in the New Kingdom, 1400 BC, still the older structures were at least another 1,000 years old before that. And during the time of Cleopatra, of course, we wouldn't mention anything more clear than the obelisks, or as they call them, Cleopatra's needles, which they were not manufactured during her time, but they were taken originally from Heliopolis.
Well, that's right. Well, and the Sphinx stela, or the dream stela, one of the things that like, I don't want to sound trivial here and say that it blows my mind, but it does, because if you understand what Thutmose IV is saying there, he's saying that hey man, I found this head in the sand, right? It's pretty cool. Yeah. It had been there for 2,000 years, right? Or longer, but it was just something that was there. And that is mind-blowing when you really understand what the dream stela was created for, because he was just impressed with the dream that he had while kicking back in the sand in front of the Sphinx. And he didn't know what it was, did he?
They did, actually, because he, in the dream stela, he was supposedly talking to him and telling him, like, release me from the sand.
Right, release, because it was buried.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And, it's like us finding a statue on Easter Island. We only saw the head and we didn't know the rest of the bodies underneath.
Hey, I wanted to ask, and speaking about that, what's your theory? What's your theory about the head of the Sphinx?
Because it's smaller, you mean?
Well, for a lot of reasons. One, it just doesn't belong there.
The Sphinx is a big mystery.
It is.
And still surrounded with mystery until today. And when we see it officially being guarded this much, and you're not allowed to look here, and then it makes me feel that there is more onto the subject of the Sphinx than we think. The stelas, they were all depicting the stelas that were found in the Sphinx enclosure. They were all showing the Sphinx seated on a pedestal. And this pedestal would be probably the ground that it's sitting on, and then there is a gate. This gate will be on a lower level. Probably, if it exists, it will be in the valley, not the valley temple, in the Sphinx temple, near the valley temple, and the one that is front of the Sphinx temple. When Dr. Robert Chuck made the GPR test in the Sphinx enclosure, he found that there is a tunnel running underneath the left paw of the Sphinx, which Dr. Zahi said, this is not man-made, this is nothing but a natural crack. So the Sphinx became a sign of being quiet about something. And this is very old about the Sphinx. Like it used to be famous as a pilgrimage place. It's a lion, no, not a jackal. This is my opinion, and I follow the oldest text and the names that was given as, for example, Ruti, and Ruti was a representation of the Sphinx, and when it used to be written in hieroglyphs, it was a lion, not even a shape of a Sphinx. When they wrote Sphinx in the ancient text, it was a shape of a lion. And there is the stories, lots of stories about Napoleon and his soldiers, that they found a gate between the front paws of the Sphinx. And right before they could access, they had to leave. And many things like that. These stories are there in the official books, but they say it might be not true. But they could not deny it or approve. The other things, the Sphinx was also being worshipped in the late period as Horon or Horna, and it's one title that was given by Canaanites who lived in a village, one of the villages near the area, and it exists until today, called Haraniya. And the evidence that it was renovated throughout the ages. For example, the stela of Tutmosis is actually can be considered a documentation of one of the very ancient archaeology work, when he revealed the Sphinx and then built around it the mud brick walls that the archaeologists found the seal of with his name on the mud bricks. So it shows that he revealed it, or it was revealed during his time, and also kept with these walls to prevent it from getting buried again, but it got buried again. When we were there with Dr. Robert Shaka, he was talking about the erosion on the Sphinx enclosure. Then I asked him, what about the Sphinx itself? Do we see the same erosion on the body of the Sphinx? And he confirmed yes. And of course, we discussed why is the head is smaller than the rest of the body, and the only answer we could think of is that because it was recarved. And as a stone carver, I could compare between the anatomy of the head and the features, and compare it with the other iconography of the different sculpting, and it matches the Old Kingdom sculpting. So if that head of the Sphinx was recarved at once, then it was recarved during the Old Kingdom time. Then it was also painted, and the famous hole in the head of the Sphinx is not a path that leads down, but it was also another time, probably in the New Kingdom time, when they wanted to add a shape, one of the crowns that is put above the head.
A headdress.
Like
a headdress.
Seemed like it had its own headdress, like the Nemes, the famous Nemes, like the one for Tutankhamun. But I'm talking about another crown that will be above the head. That's why they made that hole, so they can lock in it another piece of stone with the crown. And of course, the famous beard that is not from the same piece of stone. And part of it is in the British Museum, and other parts are in the Egyptian Museum. So the Sphinx, and of course the official story, we know the Sphinx has alignment with the rising sun, the one who is facing the east, Harem Akhet, the one who's facing the horizon. We have other things like the two lines, which is this one, and the Leo constellation that he is facing also when it's rising, and lots of important signs about it. But in the official story, they say it was just a quarry, and after they were done, a big piece of stone was in the quarry. So instead of removing it, they decided to carve it as a Sphinx. So as if it has no significance. But the Sphinx was the most and the largest statue in the world of the very, very ancient time. Like compare between the Sphinx and the statue of Khufu, 7 centimeters.
Yeah, right. Right. And what did your dad say when it came to the Sphinx? I'm sure he spoke about it and its history before Robert Schoch and John Anthony West, arrived on the scene in 1991. What was he saying about the Sphinx back then?
Well, he believed that it could be one of the goddess, Tifnut, the lioness, the one that releases the mist out of the structure. And I see why he gave it that name, because there is a channel that is carved in the bedrock, and on any rainy day, this channel used to lead all the water to the Sphinx enclosure. And with a lioness face. So he believed that it could be a lioness, and he believed also that it could be tens of thousands of years. He believed that it could go back to 2 great years.
50,000 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And at the time, I was not, like before he passed, God bless his soul, I was not knowledgeable enough to discuss this with him. But I know that his studies, his professional, all archaeologists and Egyptologists, they study the general history and then they become specified in a certain era.
Right.
So, for example, Dr. Zaya Hawass, for example, is a doctor in archaeology and everything, but his area of studies or of like profession is the Greco-Roman. And most of people choose the Greco-Roman. I don't know why. Perhaps because the history is much easier. Like right. Like a nice, beautiful story that you can study on. My father, God bless his soul, he was his profession was in the prehistory time, all the Etherean era, and all the ones that goes to hundreds of thousands of years. And for some people who might not know, we have artifacts here from the prehistory that goes back to 300,000 years.
What?
And yeah.
Wait. Stop, Yousef.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Hold on a minute here. Give me an example of an artifact that is 300,000 years old that we don't know
There
about.
are loads. The archaeologist who worked like this, he didn't find one artifact. He found trucks loads of this prehistory locations in Fayoum and in Halwan and even in Cairo, in Maadi and in Aswan and in Luxor. It's all over. In Sinai, they found, and this is documented officially on the highest level. There is a map for it by the Ministry of Antiquities and by the UNESCO and all the worldwide organizations of history. And I've seen the map in the documentaries and the locations, and many locations we have here in Egypt, and it goes back like the one that goes to 300,000 years is the ones that they found artifacts like the prehistory artifacts like stone tools and axes and things like that. But there are older ones, but they only found skeletons, which goes to 500,000 years. So the 7,000 years, or let's say the 5,000 years, actually 7. The 7,000 year old, according to the mainstream books, is the pre-dynastic and the dynastic Egyptian. This is not how old the civilization is. The civilization is very even this timeline of the 7,000 could be extended to 30,000 years or more. And of course, having the nation itself living by the sides of by the banks of the river and in the lush valleys back then goes back to hundreds of thousands of years.
Well, you remember the arguments that were made, which was, and still to this day exist, which is there was nothing before 3000 BC. It's all about Mesopotamia and Egypt. There's nothing else to see here. Nothing happened. If you find something, let us know. But until then, 3000 BC is the number, right? And that's it. Well, now we've got Göbekli Tepe. And the suggestion of Göbekli Tepe and its dating, 10,000 BC, possibly 11,000 BC or older. Göbekli Tepe is one of the most beautiful, ornate, and majestic sites on this planet, rivaling anything. But it is 7,000 years older than any number an Egyptologist can throw at you, right? And technically, Göbekli Tepe wasn't supposed to exist, which now suggests, Yousef, in my eyes, that there is plenty of stuff throughout Egypt that is much, much older than any of the dates that Zahi Hawass or anybody else wants to suggest, that it does exist and there's much more to find.
Yeah. Well, people like Dr. Zahi Hawass and the academics, they must follow the timelines given to them in the books, which is known to be the British timelines or the studies of the British archaeologists. But the prehistory was a study that didn't take its place in research until recently.
That's right.
Because all the historians believed that the ancient Egyptian civilization was born complete. There is no roots. It didn't evolve. It was just right there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so
it was magic. It was magic.
Yeah.
Right? It was just it just happened. It just happened. Do you see though? Do you see a time when the academics are going to come to their senses, and that we may start to rewrite the books and what is taught in school? Do you see that ever happening?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the academics themselves, but the awareness for all the people. It's about knowing ourselves. So that's why it's important to research and explore for everybody, to know better, to understand the capability, and remember the word, like my father always warned us from labeling things, and that labeling is a device in the hand of those who are controlling the masses so they can direct them the way they want to. And one of these labels, we can understand it's important just by seeing it. For example, free energy. When we talk about, like when you hear the word free energy, it's directly coming to mind that it's free of charge, like I'm not going to be paying money for this energy. But it's more than that. It's the power that will set us free from many things, to understand the activation of the ancient structures. And let me say it as official as it can be. If it was not a tomb, then perhaps it had other function that could be very useful. And nobody can deny the power of the pyramids, the power of design and alignment. Even if you create a small model, you can understand its power. So imagine the difference in size and the chosen material, the chosen location, and then the interior design. There is a study about, it's an old study, about the interior design, the one that is known as the Grand Gallery, and that it has some acoustic powers in its design. It could resonate with the vibration that is created from the soft movement of the tectonic plates, and transform the infra sound frequency to ultra sound frequency. I can feel the resonance when I create any sound inside the Grand Gallery, or the resonance valve, or the King's Chamber, but it was not constructed or created to be activated by people entering it. It was, in my opinion, was not meant to be entered. The design in the inside was not meant for people to be going inside and outside. And I take the evidence from other structures, of course, as well.
Yousef, I want to say this before I say goodnight. It was a great conversation, but your father had a magic and a life in his eyes, and I see the same thing in you. You've got it, man, and don't ever stop. And I look forward to getting over there and hanging out, Rita and I, with you and Patricia, and taking that trip. Thank you so much, my friend. What a great conversation.
Thank you, Jim.
You're the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yousef Awyan. Now, it's very simple. I want everybody to go to chematology.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Head over, get your learn on, and spend some time there. And if you ever get the chance to go to Egypt, let Yousef know. All right? Yousef, enjoy the rest of your day, my man, and give my best to Patricia.
I will. Thank you, Jimmy, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next time.
Me too. Thank you.
Yousef Awyan. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to roll credits. We just went pole to pole. What a great conversation tonight. Tomorrow night, right here, Laird Scranton for night 4 of Egypt Week here on Fade to Black. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamurian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, Omar D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Laird Scranton, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.